There we go. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first Lunch and Learn of 2025. Fabulous session today, hosted by Gurpreet and Jason Berry to talk about mental health in the mortgage industry. The session will be recorded and will be hosted on the Working in Mortgages website after the call. So without further ado, let me hand you over to Gurpreet, who's going to start the session for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick, and good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, as Nick says, the first Lunch and Learn session for 2025, and we've linked it into the time of year, this session. So often in January, it's a month where some people might struggle with different.
Realised I'm listening.
Sorry, I just heard someone there. Yeah, I was just saying, often in January, it's a month where people often struggle with different life events or just different moments. And the third Monday in January is often called Blue Monday as well. So in line with that, we're going to try and keep the conversation going around mental health. So we've got Jason Berry, Group Sales Director at Crystal Specialist Finance, and also founding member of the Mortgage Industry Mental Health Charter, who's on to talk about some of the support available across the mortgage industry. So Jason's going to run through some of the support available, and then we'll have a bit of Q&A at the end as well. So, Jason, I'll pass across to you and I'll get your slides loaded as well.
Thanks, Capri. And listen, thanks for having me on this first Lunch and Learn of the year. Really great and proud to be here. And look, I apologise in advance because again I'm going to be talking about some statistics, and we're going to go into looking at some figures which are particularly dark at times. But we operate, and we must never forget. When you see the grey hairs that I've got on my head, every one of them's been earned in what is a brilliant mortgage sector. I've operated in this sector now for over 30 years, and no matter what gets thrown at us, whether it's at a micro or macro level, we've got such a brilliant and resilient workforce operating in this sector. So although we're going to be talking about mental health and well-being, and I'll be indicating some of the progress that we've made as we've gone through the last 4 years, and I'm going to be talking about some statistics which are not great. We mustn't forget that we do operate in a brilliant sector, and I'm really chuffed and humbled that I think with the charter we've created, we've got some best practice that other sectors will look on with a little bit of envy. So just if I can go to can I turn the slides, Gurpreet, or do you have to turn the slides for me?
No, I'll be your not so glamorous assistant, so I'll do it.
Debbie McGee, thank you. So if I go to the agenda, so keeping it really straightforward, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I suppose, the why and the context around the mission statement that we've got with Mimic, and importantly, I'll talk about the activities and the schedules that we've got planned for events as we go through the year, and then I'll return and just talk about the ambitions that we've got in terms of where we can take the signatory numbers. But I think before I talk about I suppose the journey we're on, just some statistics really, and I'll start looking at start just very specific to our sector. The charter's been going for 4 years now, and what that does deliver is an annual survey, and that annual survey enables us to almost have a temperature check each year where we can just see the progress that's being made in certain areas. And as we try to maintain the same questions, it does I suppose, as I say, give us this temperature check where we can compare the progress or otherwise as we go through each year. And probably what won't be a surprise to everybody on the call today is that guess what, everybody who operates in the mortgage marketplace don't get enough sleep and work long hours. So when we look at the respondents, we've got 1 in 5 of respondents never get the minimum 7 hours sleep in a working week. So that's just over 20%, 21% of people who responded never get one night of that minimum 7 hour sleep. The working hours, we've got an increasing number of people who are working more than 60 hours a week, and certainly an increased number of people working over 45 hours a week. And the trend is consistent year on year, so we're not seeing significant peaks, but what we are seeing is we're just seeing a consistent trend, which is indicating that sleep isn't improving and people are working longer hours. So I think the risk we have within the sector when it comes to burnout is more prevalent than ever before. And I think, somewhat interestingly, and maybe somewhat surprisingly, was the statistic around, mental health being poor or of concern, because, despite this panacea that maybe everybody thought pre-COVID about working from home permanently or working in a hybrid environment, so we were picking and choosing the days we'd go into our office, we had 75% of respondents were either working from home or permanent, and yet mental health had actually been mental health that was poor or of concern was actually at 26%. So it was more than 1 in 4 of people, despite working from home, the majority of respondents, mental health had actually worsened. So I think the isolation and that, certainly that panacea we thought we'd get working from home is not necessarily proving to be the case in terms of what evidence is suggesting. And I think what it demonstrates to employers and what it demonstrates to business owners is the need to really engage with key members of staff to ensure that if they're working from home, if we're not getting those coffee machine moments, we're having regular check-ins, we're having regular conversations, and we're doing everything we can to keep those people working from home engaged. So we've certainly got some work to do. If I'm going to the next slide, Capri, please, I just want to talk about just some of the other statistics really before I talk about our actual ambitions for the charter. Suicide rates, I've not got the latest suicide rates for 2024, and I apologise. I said I know I talk about a couple of dark elements, and suicide rates are on the increase, unfortunately. So 11.5 per 100,000 people are now taking their own lives, unfortunately, and that's up from 2022. And I'm sure when we see the 2024 figures, I think we'll see another increase. What we're seeing, in terms of suicide is, from a men perspective, it's the biggest killer of the age range 35 to 49 for men, and it's the biggest killer for women between 20 and 34. But what's of most concern, so I've got 3 kids who are 22, 25 and 28. And I know I don't look old enough to have that, but that's their ages. But what is clear is that 16 to 25 age range, with the advent of social media and the access to harmful content, and also the cyberbullying that takes place, we've got a real issue in that 16 to 25 age range. And what Gurpreet touched on at the beginning around the December and January periods, and the Blue Monday coming up next week, it is particularly true in terms of that Christmas period, those dark nights, those really short days, and do make the Christmas period particularly tricky and particularly difficult. So we've had a real focus on self-care through the last couple of months. So in order for people in our sector to really serve others, we've got to be the best version of ourselves, right? And to be the best versions of ourselves, guess what? We've got to look after ourselves better. And look, I don't always practice what I preach, and sometimes I look at 2 nights ago, and we were just about talking about social media, but I look at my phone, where I run my life from my phone, but normally I put it on the cabinet next to the side of my bed. And there was 2 nights this week where I'd not put it in a drawer, hidden it away, or just left it out of arm's reach. I actually have my phone literally on the bed with me, which is ridiculous. So I think as we go through the February month, I think one of the call to actions that's been interesting is I've had various conversations with in formats like this week, is having a month where not necessarily look, it's maybe unrealistic to think we can put our phones away because of the amount of stuff we run through the phones, but certainly coming off social media, or maybe coming off certain areas of social media and staying off it for a February month seems like a good next little initiative. So being the best versions of yourselves and looking after yourselves, self-care has absolutely been the focus in December and January. As we move into February, I think let's look to see how we can avoid maybe social media, because the statistics are suggesting it's particularly harmful in that 16 to 25 age range. And just bringing it back to the slides and just helping you guys understand the journey we've been on, really. So look, as I say, I've been really proud to operate in this sector for 30 years, an amazing sector to operate in, and no matter what gets thrown at us, we can prove resilience and we can prove success time after time. And I think when I started to look at bringing something together around mental health and well-being, I was doing it from a place of just post-COVID. So, the 62 staff that we had at Crystal, with all the challenges of moving them remote and supporting their isolation, keeping them engaged. And, the environment that I'd seen, the mortgage environment that I'd seen pre-COVID was one of extremes, and I'd been as guilty of it as everybody else. And, some of the party nights and, the drunken episodes I've had at various events over the years, some of them have been brilliant, but some of them had also been, when I reflect back, quite embarrassing and not something to be proud of. So I think the extremes of the sector that we operated in, I think, was something that I felt we needed to shine a light on how we can really have a focus on this this well-being and looking after ourselves better. And I knew I couldn't do it as a crusade on my own, and very, very thankfully I was able to approach 6 what I believe were industry heavyweights who I knew had showed elements in the press or privately to myself, and I knew that there was an interest in the mental health and well-being within the sector. So Rob Jupp from Brightstar, and Martin Reynolds from Simply Biz, Nicola from Knowledge Bank, and Paul Brett, who was at Lambay at the time, Scott Howitt, who'd been at Chartwells, and who am I missing out? Andrew Montlake from Corico. We all got together and created the charter. And all the mortgage industry mental health charter is at the moment is we're trying to encourage companies, we're trying to encourage firms to commit to have mental health and well-being on their agenda. So although we've got the Stevenson Farmer report, which actually delivers 6 guiding principles, there's no accountability to deliver to those principles. But what there is accountability to deliver is to have mental health and well-being on your agenda. And it's totally free to become part of the to become a signatory, and signatory rather than member. So it's not a boys club, it's not a membership club, it's signatories who just share this this common focus on having mental health and well-being at the core of their business. And over the last 4 years, it's taken 4 years to get to 175 signatories, but we're now touching over 20,000 individuals with those signatories, which I'm truly humbled by. But if I'm honest with you, I don't even think we've got to first base yet. When we consider these 6,500 mortgage broker firms, and I've only got 85 broker firms as signatories, and we're a million miles away from moving to the next stage of I suppose the charter mission, which will be proposition and delivering meaningful support into the marketplace that I love so much. I still think we're in an awareness phase. So when it comes to the growth we've had, I'm really chuffed, really humbled, and delighted to to be able to touch over 20,000 individuals. But I'm not even at base 1. So the general meeting that I held with the co-founders of signatories on Monday, we gave ourselves a very straightforward target. And look, I've been in sales and marketing all my life, and I'm motivated by numbers. And I'm also somebody who, if I'm not careful, I'll commit to 100 things when only 3 or 4 things are possible. So I'm mindful that I've got a real good group around me who can help shape what we believe is a realistic aim, but also we can deliver activities and support that we don't fail to commit on, which is really, really crucial. So we're going to go from 175 signatories to 350 signatories this year. So really ambitious plans to double, and I think it's impossible for us not to do that. When we look at the cross representation of the sector we've actually got already as signatories, we've got mainstream lenders, we've got challenger banks, we've got specialist distributors, we've got networks, we've got clubs, we've got one-man band brokers, we've got meaningful large national brokers. We really do have a brilliant cross section of the market that we operate in. So it's straightforward for me in terms of how we increase and how we double. It's just more conversations. It's more understanding. So the fact that it's free to join, the fact that people can choose to be as participative as they choose to be as they move forward with becoming a signatory. And ultimately, as we progress, and what we're trying to do, and what I've got no doubt we will be able to achieve as we move forward, is just share best practices. So as we move from this raising awareness stage to propositional stage, what's brilliant for me is if I look at the corporate businesses that we've got involved as signatories, they've got some very mature and tried and tested mental health and wellbeing programs. But guess what? When they're doing brilliant activity with their staff, or maybe pushing it out into the intermediary marketplace, it still remains very siloed. So it still remains in a very one-dimensional way within that business. So what I've got to be able to do with the Mimic website is make sure when when Paragon does something brilliant around activities that are from a mental health and wellbeing perspective, it's shared, and we broadcast what that brilliance is, and we give people the opportunity to copy and replicate if they choose moving forward. What's also interesting, and again will be coming up the track, I've got no doubt, is webinars and events where the larger corporates are really nosy, and actually HSBC would really like to understand what the Lloyds Banking Group are doing with their mental health and wellbeing. And because there's no commercial sensitivity, and what we're talking about is something which is, we're trying to help people operating in our sector be happier, be more content, and be more fulfilled. There's a real appetite to actually share these activities, which I'm really encouraged by. So I think this year, how do we go from 175 to 350? Going towards the next year, the 2026 space, I'm really confident we'll be reflecting back and delivering more meaningful activities that are all about serving and supporting anybody who's working in our sector. And look, we had our busiest year last year in terms of activities, and this year will be even busier. So on our website, we've got a full list of calendar events, and there's 3 milestone dates really that are really important to us, that are almost flags in the sand, where we'll always deliver some brilliant activity. One is Mental Health Week, which is May the 11th to May the 18th this year. The other is World Suicide Day, which is in September, and the third day is World Mental Health Day, which is in October. So I think those 3 dates, although there's loads of other dates that we've got activities on, so World Men's Day and loads of others. When you look at our schedule, there's 3, the 3 most important dates are the 3 that I've just mentioned there. And look, if I can go to the next slide, Capri, I think increasing the numbers and making sure that we've got a real not end state, but we've got the next phase of our journey, which is all about delivering meaningful support and propositional support to any of the signatories is really important to me. But the here and now, whilst we're continuing to raise awareness, is just trying to grow the numbers and just make sure that the site and Mimic just provides a pathway and a gateway to experts if somebody is struggling. And these just useful resources, so hints, tips, that can be accessed on the website, which give somebody who's maybe a firm, a business principal who's just looking at where the hell do I start with this? There's just some useful reference material that people can lift and drop. But I do need help as I go through the year. So the various events that we have during the calendar, I think you'll see Mimic feature more with different signatories having a pull-up stand and talking about Mimic, and I'm pleased with that. So that'll help with the recruitment. but I just really seek to grow the number of signatories. And I know I'm pushing on an open door, so it's just a case of people understanding it's a pledge to have mental health and well-being almost as a badge of honour for your business. And all it's doing is providing the opportunity to take place in activities that you actually choose. So there's no huge accountabilities, and it's totally free. So I think getting that message out there is really important. And I mentioned the three milestone dates that we have, and I just want to talk about something we did last year, which was amazing. Was we did a walk and talk where myself and a number of industry peers got together, and we walked from the Crystal office in Tamworth all the way to HSBC's office in Canary Wharf. And each day I had different individuals joining me. It was about 25 to 30 miles each day we were covering. But if I'm honest with you, I did nearly kill off some real industry heavyweights, because the route I'd actually chosen had us in the dandelions alongside the dual carriageway at times. So I could have been in a real hot water if I'd not been careful. And I've learned from that this year. And although the route is going to be equally as long, we're actually going to cover the ground between Digbeth in Birmingham and Paddington in London, but we're going to do it this year all the way along the Grand Union Canal. So it's 144 miles. It's longer than last year, so 27 to 32 miles a day. And anybody who wants to get involved, so each day we have different individuals who join us, and it's the marathon that we're covering each day. We do it at a steady pace, and we're not fast walking, but we're not idling along. So we have to walk at a relatively decent pace, just because otherwise it's going to take us longer than the 8.5-9 hours that we actually allocate. But I welcome individuals to join. What was amazing last year was people who I've known for a number of years, but maybe not spoken with in any kind of great detail, and we had conversations and we had chats about things that that everybody's got their own kind of backstory. It was just a brilliant 5 days for me. This year I've got a chap called Dev Malley, who's been involved in the industry for nearly as long as myself, who's got a particularly tragic backstory. He's going to walk 5 days with me as well, which I'm chuffed about. And anybody, as I say, who wants to join and do individual days, you're more than welcome. And either DM me via LinkedIn or drop me an email, which I'm sure Capri and Nicola can share my email address with you afterwards. It can get a little bit unwieldy, and even though I can guarantee people's safety and it to be dual carriageway free this year, I'm trying to keep the numbers to probably no more than a dozen on an individual day. Otherwise, it just becomes some of the pathways are a little bit narrow, and it can get a little bit tricky. But please reach out to me if you're interested. Now, it says there about the plan was to do the charity ball. So I felt like Forrest Gump when I finished last year, and poor Jonathan White, who did the 5 days with me, he ended up in A&E because his feet were so blistered and so bad, whereas I could have kept walking, which was bizarre, and it was only because I'd got the right footwear. So thank you Jamie Radnap and Skechers, because it was Skechers that got me through blister free. But we did have energy at the end of it, and what I am going to do, the plan was to have the charity ball on the Thursday, and I'd got into a position where I've got 15 businesses that have committed tables for the charity ball. But as it clashes with the British Specialist Lending Awards, I'm actually going to move it to the World Mental Health Day, which is in October. So the charity ball is still something that I'm passionate about. It's still something that is going to be a focal part of the agenda for us this year. I'm going to raise money for it's a brilliant charity that Rob Jupp promotes for a young boy who took his own life at Rob's rugby club, and again, so it's going to have a focus on that, helping those 16 to 25 age range, but it's going to be in October. What I will, however, create, because again I've only made this decision, as I've been chatting to people as I've gone through this week, I will still have some kind of event which celebrates at the ending of our 144-mile hike. So not quite sure what that looks like yet, but I will get there with that. But I just encourage you. So post this conversation, post listening to me speak today, going to the website and just looking at some of the activities. Just get as involved as you want to be and as you choose to be. But that 11th to 15th date is set in stone, and that is absolutely going to be something that I'm doing. If you want to get involved, feel free. The charity ball, more to come on that as I go through the rest of the year. And I think I'm nearly there. I'm conscious of I'm probably running a little bit over, but I did warn you that I talk a lot. And look, I suppose just to pick up on the key points. So look, we're no overnight success. It's taken us 4 years to get to 175 signatories. It's taken us 4 years to have this reach now to 20,000 individuals. And as humbled and as proud as I am to have reached the milestone that we've got to, we haven't even got started. We've still got an epidemic of suicide rates here in the UK, and our sector is still not looking after its people as well as it could be. We've still got too many people not sleeping, working longer hours, and this hybrid or working from home permanently is not the solution when it comes to our own well-being. So we've got a lot of work supporting and really helping people with coping mechanisms. So straightforward ambition, 175 to 350 as I go through the year, but I can't do it without collaboration and support. So as I say, I really welcome the opportunity to speak today, and if I can influence any of you to recruit individual firms, groups of firms, but I'll just re-emphasize, it's absolutely free. They'll get a badge of honor, which is the Mimic logo that they can put on the site, and all they're doing is pledging to have that mental health and wellbeing on their radar. As we move forward, what I promise you is it's awareness stage and making sure that we just keep growing the numbers, but I promise that we will deliver some meaningful propositional events that just help help us in our day-to-day duties. So I love this this Helen Keller quote, and it's just all about collaboration. And the most important thing, I'm no mental health and wellbeing expert, but what I do know is from the conversations I've had with different people operating in the sector who have had mental health challenge, is the importance for conversation and collaboration, and that's what I'm going to be promoting as I go through the year. So keep the conversation going, and anything you guys can do to help recruit and support would be incredibly welcomed. And just keep your eyes and ears out to listen and observe the activities that we've got scheduled, and be as participative as you choose to be. So Gurpreet, Nicola, that's actually not bad for me. So I think, I know we said maybe 25 minutes with questions. So I've probably done 30 minutes, which makes it tight on questions. But let me tell you, that's for anybody. I can see a few familiar names on here, and that's as good as it gets from me, I'm afraid, in terms of sticking to time.
We'll take that, Jason. Thank you very much. I think that was very, very informative in terms of all the work you're doing. I think we'll maybe take a couple of questions if anyone wants to raise their hand or type it in the chat.
I think I'd ask a question. So while people are maybe thinking there, I'd ask a question to probably yourself and Nicola around the look. I did feel a little bit surprised, or when I observed that despite 75% of respondents to the survey were either permanently working from home or hybrid, and yet 26% of respondents indicated that their mental health had got worse or was of concern. So I thought we mistakenly that we'd start to see maybe some improvement, but it actually got worse. So that isolation is a real issue when people are working from home, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of businesses now are trying to encourage colleagues to come in, even if it's a few days a week, because you can go through a whole week without even speaking to somebody in person, and that's quite difficult.
Yeah. What did you think, Nick?
I absolutely agree. I think I've said it for a long time. I didn't realise the impact of COVID on myself until we came out of COVID and I saw a human again from my team, and I was like, oh my God, So nice. And I just think the human element is so important. So yeah, 100% behind you on that. Conscious we've got 2 hands go up there, so
Hey, great.
let's grab the question. So Paula, you look like you're the first one to pop your hand up.
Hi, Jason. Well done. You kept that under the hour. That surprises
Thank
me.
you. You know me well, you do.
I hate this to sound like a negative question, but have you encountered any resilience rejection? Has anyone been negative when you've approached them about these conversations? Because surely, and if so, I'm not saying point name and shame or anything like that, but has anyone objected to being part of this? Have they raised any issues that have given you pause for thought?
Not really, but look, I think although we're making some progress and breaking down some of the taboos, look, I think we made great progress with people stepping forward and actually indicating that it's okay to not be okay. I think is certainly breaking down some of the taboos, and I think maybe the early adopters. Back in 2021, maybe there was a bit of courage that was being shown because they were indicating that they had this on the radar at a time where where maybe it still carried a level of negativity around it. But look, I think life is tough. And I think mental health is not a cop out, and life, particularly, there's no perfect pathway with a mortgage, and we've got this emotional roller coaster that we all go through, and ultimately it's a challenge, and we do have to show some resilience from a day-to-day basis. And I think that has to still be borne in mind when we're actually dealing with people around us on a day-to-day basis, but not necessarily seeing people deliver resistance. And I'm yet to understand whether that it's token gestures. So I've said that there's no unwanted burden of activity participation that we expect, but with those 175 signatories, how many of them are doing it because they want that badge of honour, and how many of them are doing it because they actually truly care and want to shape some business practices around what good practice for mental health and wellbeing looks like in the future. But I think we just got to increase the awareness, and then the recruitment will grow.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then I think it was Rebecca. I think you
Rebecca, yeah.
Yes. So
Hiya.
Thank you so much. I really love that that presentation. I think it was really interesting. I'm going to actually take it back to my network to suggest we sign up for it. I didn't get to make the decision, but I'm going to suggest it.
Amazing.
I'm a huge advocate for mental health and well-being and vulnerability within our network, having experienced it myself as well, and I'm very vocal about talking about experiences. I had a question and a comment. So my question was, where could I find, those statistics about mortgage advisors not sleeping and working longer hours? Where could I find that information?
So I'll make sure if I can. I'll get your email from. Well, one of the things I'll share with Gurpreet so we can distribute it to everybody afterwards is the survey findings. So our survey findings. So I'll make sure you've got the link, and you'd be able to see each of the last 4 years. And very transparently, the last survey we actually did I mentioned the statistics which we spoke about, but there's also we've still got, I think, something like 47% of firms not offering any kind of mental health or wellbeing support. So even though, again, 175 signatures, we've got 53% of the respondents actually saying that their firm does deliver some mental health and wellbeing support, we've still got 47% that haven't. So I think you'll find some useful statistics that extend just beyond what I've spoken about. So I'll make sure to share the link so you've got access post this post this meeting.
Well, thank you so much. And then my other comment was going to be, it's actually about homework and hybrid working and stuff. So it's just a little bit of a different take on it. So obviously this isn't going to be for everybody. I'm autistic, and I didn't realise how much I struggled in an office environment until we went into lockdown and I had to work from home. I literally, and I felt quite guilty about it, everybody was miserable during lockdown, and I was having the best time of my life because it was the first time I hadn't been completely stressed out just coping being in the office environment, because I'd never done home working before. So when this is at my old place I was working, when we went back, we were allowed to do a bit of half and half, and then eventually it became all in the office. Now my mental health definitely was actively damaged by that. I just couldn't cope, to the point where I actually, if I hadn't been in because the role I'm in now, luckily for me, it's 100% working from home, apart from once every like month we'll go to head office, which is fine. It's a novelty then because I'm seeing people. But in my previous role, I was having to go in every day, and I honestly think I would, if I hadn't already planned on leaving, I think I would have had to leave the role because I just couldn't cope. So I think it's situational for different people, and obviously, different if somebody's got autism or, or some sort of other neurodiversity or disability. But I know some people, it's their worst nightmare is working from home. But I just don't think we can have, because I see this debate a lot, and I think for some people like me, I didn't get diagnosed with autism till late on in life. So some people might be thinking, oh, I absolutely love working from home, I don't want to get forced back. So it's just another take on it, is that I think it's different people, isn't it? It's whatever's best for individuals.
And what I'd say, Rebecca, is look, an old dinosaur like me would love nothing more than having everybody back in the office. But let me tell you, I'm surrounded by talented people around me who always encourage me to listen to the audience and listening to our staff. What do they want? What are they saying? And finding that balance. So it's just like a marriage, isn't it? I suppose leading a business, you've got to do a bit of give and take, and you've got to ask good questions, listen to the responses, and then execute based on a fairness. And sometimes there's compromise within that. And look, I love it when I'm in the office, and I know I've been in a couple of times this week, so I've not been in every day this week. I've been out and about, but I love it when I'm in there and it's full, it's vibrant, everybody's working. I'm just at absolute peace. But I also know that delivering the flexibility we do carries some real huge value. And I think the people working remote, because if somebody is struggling with their own mental health, then it's the different masks that they can face. And if they're remote, it's harder to you've not got that same kind of face-to-face opportunity that you get in the office environment. So you've just got to, I'm finding I'm having to increase the amount of time that I speak to the team who are operating remotely. I probably have to ask a little bit deeper questions. So rather than how you're feeling, it's how you're feeling out of 1 to 10. So you just have to try and unravel the onion a little bit. So just dig a little bit deeper to really understand. But if you care, what I found over the years, if you care about your people, it's easy to understand when they're having a bad time. But increasing the amount of activity, the contact that you actually have with somebody when they're operating remote just seems an absolute must. Nick, I think so. Thanks for that, Rebecca, and I'll make sure we share that survey link. And I think your hand was next, Nick. If we come to you, if that's okay.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, it's similar to Rebecca's point. I think really it's I just wondered in that research where you kind of said that more people are working from home, and yet generally speaking people are feeling less happy than they were before. Is that directly correlated? Because you've got other things going on since COVID. Cost of living crisis, I think, is huge for a lot of people in terms of their mental health generally and how they're feeling about life. I mean, speaking from personal experience, when I used to work in the office 5 days a week and my wife used to work in the office 5 days a week, and you're trying to sort childcare, it is a nightmare. And looking back at that time, I kind of think, we were certainly not happier then in trying to make that balance. And I think you've always got to be thinking about the individual, haven't you? Some people I know within my team that they've got the option, they can work in the office when they want, they can work from home when they want. Some of my team will work in the office 5 days a week because that, similar to yourself by the sound of it, they get their energy from being around people, being in the office, etc. And I guess you can have other people the other way around that probably, get their energy from having time to think and be able to do their job in isolation. And I appreciate there's a team dynamic you've got to be thinking about. It's always got to be down to that individual, hasn't it? And what kind of gives them their energy.
Yeah, look, and I think people talk about work-life balance, don't they? And for me, it's more about work-life integration now. So we're talking about hybrid and people working from home. And I genuinely, and I bet you're the same, Nick, I've got no issue with if one of my team wants to drop the kids off at school, collect the kids from school, as long as I'm getting a good day's work from them and they're achieving the objectives and the results we're looking for, I'm cool with that. And look, it's not necessarily the hours we work, it's the work we do in the hours, isn't it? So I think work-life integration and how we give ourselves some disciplines to ensure we tip in with a good day's work, but also just recognise that we don't need to feel guilty if we've nipped to drop the kids off at school, because guess what? I was talking to a broker at 8:10 this morning, and I was at an event a couple of nights ago when I didn't get in till midnight. So again, I think leaders are, good leaders, and just have to recognise that it comes back the full circle to, listening to the people around you and creating an environment that people can grow and they feel listened to, and it offers a flexibility, because it's a new world and there's no doubt about it. This hybrid is here to stay. So we just have to maybe modify our leadership behaviours, and managers, supervisors, leaders within businesses. There's never been a more important role to really truly assess how people are feeling, because we've got to dig deeper and we've got to have more contact than less contact without it feeling intrusive, just to make sure they're okay. Yeah. And Leslie, I think you got your hands up there, so come to you next. Hi there.
Hiya. I came late to the party because I was caught up with something. So sorry, I'm really sort of just want to establish, are we all mortgage advisors on this call?
No, you've got a mixture of mortgage advisors, lenders, leaders in the industry. So it's a bit of a mixture.
Okay. So I have been a mortgage advisor for, well, I've done FA and everything, but I've been with the company for 40 years this year. And I have always worked.
Never.
I have. Yeah. And I've worked in branches for the majority of that time. But 2 years ago, I joined our FS colleagues as a specialist mortgage advisor. There's only a very small handful of us who do it. So the customers that we deal with are our most vulnerable customers. It's beyond anything that you can imagine. Okay. And they've trained us specifically to deal with it. So when you get a lot of transference from those customers, but working within back office and it's not back office, but FS, we are all remote 100%. There's no hybrid because there's only 10 of us. So we've got to service the entire country. And what I would say is how skilled our managers are at dealing with that so that we feel included. And I don't know, like we do things every morning, we do like a morning huddle, and we talk about a little bit about the business and everybody can say what they need. And then we have like, I know you're going to sort of say what, but we have like song of the day, or we have like a little 5-minute pub quiz, or just something to make us feel like that. And even though I work completely remote, and I have done for 2 years, I haven't been in the office for 2 years, I feel more connected to my team now than I ever did. And I have had my fair share of mental health problems, believe you me. But I just wondered if there was something to learn from like the back office teams, as in the financial, like people who aren't dealing with, I mean, the customers we deal with it's just another world. I couldn't believe it. But what struck me the most when I first started in this role was what we offer as a bank.
Yeah.
Despite being in the company at that point for 38 years, I had no clue what we offered. So then I went and worked in FS, and I thought I was working for a different company. That's how different it was. But I think there's like, so my boss is a guy called Ryan Hassel, and he's so skilled at operating with the fact that we work remotely. And I don't know whether there's something to be learned, because listening to people who feel sort of isolated, I used to feel more isolated in the branch than I do now. So they're doing something right, aren't they?
That's brilliant. Look, and to hear that feedback is ace. And it kind of, I don't know if you heard me make the point earlier on, but I think one of the opportunities we've got having this, I suppose, this centralized mimic objectivity is that we can, we should be able to broadcast what brilliant activity looks like. So what Ryan's doing, for you and your group, I'd love nothing more than to find a way to showcase that, and then other firms can choose to adopt and adapt or not. But what's great is it's brilliant to hear his approach really resonates with you and the team. And I just think, yeah, we just need to find ways. I need to try and find ways to showcase when good practices, good processes, great behaviours are being demonstrated, so others can choose to embrace it or not. But it looked really encouraging to hear that, because as I say, you're talking about stats that I was talking about at the beginning, which you might have missed. It's a brilliant sector. We've got some amazing people. I've met some incredible people over the years, and what we're doing, just to give you a bit of a perspective on this, what we're doing with the charter here is being spotted in other sectors. We're being picked out as with the charter as delivering almost like a best practice into the sector. So whether it's the finance, whether it's the education sector with the stresses that teachers and those associated with teaching actually feel, or whether it's the medical profession, we've got other sectors looking in and saying, what is it you're doing over there? How are you doing that? What's happening? And although I'm again proud of that, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, flipping out, I've not even got started yet. I'm not even at first base. I've only got 175 signatories, touching 20,000.
What I will say, Jason, is the team that I work on, just to add a little bit of clarity to this, like, are all 30-year pluses who've always worked in branch. Yeah, so there's only 10 of us. But I mean, there's other teams who operate the same way. They all follow the same model. And what's interesting is we did it on a pilot for a year. Not one of us wanted to go back into branch. And when we do sort of little dip tests and they ask how everyone's feeling, and we have not a WhatsApp, like a Teams group, and we chat to each other through the day and night. And if anyone's got a problem, they chat in, or they want, like, so you don't feel isolated when you're working from home. And it's manned.
Right.
There's somebody will answer you instantly. They have like point of contact chats and everything. And I just think that sometimes when I was in branch and I worked at home and you can't get in touch with anyone and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. That when I moved over into this sort of setup where they're geared for working from home, they all have these point of contact groups, and you put a message in and someone pops and goes, hello, and then they'll ring you on Teams and they'll go, what can I do for you? And so you'd never feel isolated. Brilliant. It's clever.
I'd love to learn. So maybe again, post the call here, and if I could reach out and maybe just try and learn a little bit more, and maybe we find a way to showcase it on the website. So I'll reach out post this, but I'm conscious of time and how we're doing it. I think have we got time for? Is it okay? For I've got Paul.
Yeah.
Hi, matey.
Hey, Jace, you okay, mate?
Oh, good, thank you.
Good. Listen, brilliant presentation, mate. Look forward to catching up with you soon. I'm really interested, I suppose, because we've met and talked about this a few times, is you've talked about the ambition for Mimic in terms of signatories for next year. So I'm going to try and sort of get you to crystal ball for me now. Not that just because you work for Crystal, by the way.
That's on brand. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. So in a year's time, if you're looking at the signatories, obviously, as well as getting double what we've got today, is there anything in the cross section of the signatories that you'd like to look slightly differently? Because the industry is very diverse. We've got brokerages of massive sizes, smaller sizes, lenders, providers. What would you actually like that to look like in a year's time?
Again, a really good question, mate. So delighted that we've got the cross section, as you touched on there. But we haven't got enough brokers. We haven't got enough of the broker firms, as far as I'm concerned. I think the support that I've had from Nicola and all the people involved at IMLA has been exceptional. And I think what we've really been able to do is achieve a really strong penetration of IMLA members to become signatories of the charter, which is ace. And what that brings is I touched on a framework of what good practices look like, because a lot of these businesses have got mental health and wellbeing structures in place, which is great. But I want 350. I want to grow to 350 as an absolute minimum of signatories, and I want I do want to see a bias with that recruitment more so towards the broker audience, because I think what won't surprise anybody on the call here today is anytime look, we've been in volatile environments over the last couple of years, I get that. But anytime there's a product withdrawal issue and challenge for the market, guess what? I see a spike in signatories from brokers. So not only are they up until 1 o'clock in the morning trying to get the case through on a dip, but they're also up at 7-8 o'clock having not had enough sleep and thinking, shit, my mental health's not feeling great. I'm going to register over here and become a signatory of the charter. So I think the ambitions as a fast forward is grow the numbers, grow the awareness, ensure that there's a bias towards that broker community as we go through the recruitment, and then we serve the needs of the sector, and we deliver propositional activities which really add some value and just share best practices in a really effective way. So what can take sometimes 3 or 4 words to answer, Paul, I usually use about 50 as I've done there, but hopefully it gives you a flavour.
No, and it's good for the audience to hear that as well, I think. So no, thanks, mate. Cheers.
Ace.
I think that's us for questions. Gert, did you want to say anything before we?
No, thank you very much, Jason. I think that was very, very interesting, and just by the sheer volume of questions we're getting in, from the audience as well, it just shows how passionate everybody is about the subject. So thank you.
Ace.
Brilliant. Well, just a huge thank you again from me. Lovely to hear the call. You set the bar really high for our first Lunch and Learn of the year, so thank you so much. It definitely sounds like there'll be some encouragement for people to take things back to their businesses. So a plea from me on behalf of Jason, please do take this back to your businesses. Please do talk about it when you're out and about with industry peers and colleagues. So that's great. Once again, thank you so much. In terms of what comes next for IMLA Lunch and Learn, we've got some fabulous plans. We had a great day in London on Tuesday planning for 2025 and 2026. So we'll be publishing some of that detail onto the Working in Mortgages website shortly. But just to signpost what we've got coming up, we'll have some content in February, so no Lunch and Learn for February at this point, but we will be back with a Lunch and Learn in March for International Women's Day, so we've got a fabulous lineup there for you. I'll start sending the invites out in the not too distant. I think the invite's out one for that one already, but please grab it from the Working in Mortgages website if not. This year really want to try and expand our reach, so a bit similar to Jason's plea actually. Please do share these calls with colleagues, brokers, friends, peers. It's open to everyone. There's no cost attached. It's really a nice hour to spend. Well, you can do, as it said on the tin, lunch and learn. So thanks again for everybody taking time this afternoon. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. And just once again, thank you so much to Jason and Gurpreet for hosting today's session. Thank you very much. See you all soon. Enjoy the weekend when it gets here. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.